Yippee! Gonna wait for a couple people to join here, so, you know, we're not just watching nothing. I'll get this crap out of the way, though. Nobody wants to see that, right? Just have a bunch of random zip ties on the floor. Adjust the view a little bit. Move this out of the way. And now I just wait for everybody to join. Yay! We got one viewer. All right. Now, whoever's viewer number 1, can you tell me, how is the sound? Because I'm trying out a new microphone and I'd like to hear what you guys think. Does it sound good? Am I loud and clear? Yo, 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 fresh lemon water. Am I coming in loud and clear? Can you hear me all right? I am good. All right, that's good. Yeah, just trying out a new mic. Because I do these live streams and I usually just do them on my phone because it's convenient and the video quality is good enough. But with the built-in microphone, it's pretty atrocious. Because like if I'm any further away than like right next to the phone, you can't hear me. So I'm trying out an external microphone. So wait for a couple more people to join and then we'll get started here. So yeah, it's pretty amazing that post pics in the group later. Sure, I guess. Probably just going to post stuff on Reddit. You think this will replace your main ThinkPad? Well, that's what this is all about. I mean, this unboxing is kind of my first look at everything. And then I'm going to do an in-depth, or a more in-depth review. How did you get a hold of one so soon? They're pretty widely available in the United States. I just placed an order on their website and it shipped out a few days later and it got here today. So, first thing I will say, a little disappointed with the packing job. Because they put the packing order, they like used an adhesive to put it on. And getting it off, it kind of ripped off part of the logo. So a little bit disappointed in that. But I just got the base level configuration. Oh. So it's, I was hoping it'd like show them on the side here. No, it doesn't. But like it's just the base level configuration, so 8 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gigabyte SSD. Fresh Lemon Water, actually they are releasing more AMD ThinkPads. They actually just announced the new lineup yesterday. And it's like the T14, T15 Gen 2 refreshes, going to have AMD equivalents. The L series is also getting AMD equivalents, which I'm really excited about. Because the L series has kind of, in my opinion, become a spiritual successor to the T series. Because while the T series has started soldering on the RAM again, and it's gotten rid of the 2.5-inch drive bay, the L series has held on to fully upgradable RAM. It can actually be upgraded more than the T series now. And it also, I believe, still takes 2.5-inch hard drives if you really need one. So it really is still kind of like the spiritual successor to the T series in my opinion, but I won't know until I get my hands on one. I'm actually thinking about trying to get an AMD L14 when it comes out, when it becomes available, which I don't think is going to be until May. And then they also announced the new X13, which is moving to a 16:10 aspect ratio display. The X13 is like the old X series, like the X270, X280, and then with the 90 series they made it 13-inch, so it became the X390, and then now they made it the X13. The L14 is basically a cheaper version of the T14. The L series is like a more affordable option. It uses cheaper component or cheaper materials than the T series, and it's a little more affordable. But it is built really well. Like I think it even still has magnesium alloy chassis like the T series does. So I'm excited about the new X13. I'm not excited that it's all soldered RAM and everything. but it's kind of going to be more affordable than the X1 Nano, and it's going to have more ports. So if you want the 16:10 display and you want a 13-inch laptop, but you still need ports, like most of us do, and you also don't want to spend quite as much money, then the X13, the new X13 is going to be a really good option. So, yeah, this is just base level configuration. When I purchased it, it was $13.50 US. I got a little bit of a discount because I'm a student, and so I got a student discount. It was still a hefty chunk of change, but last couple of YouTube videos have been very successful, so I have a little bit more ad revenue that I could, spend on making more videos. And since I plan on making a video about this, I think it's a good investment to make. And if I end up not liking it, then I can return it, or I can sell it to somebody else. And regardless, I'll make some ad revenue from the video about it, so I think it's worth the investment. So the base configuration as of right now when I'm doing this, February 2021, it's $13.50 US, give or take. At least it was when I purchased it. It could be different. Lenovo's prices fluctuate all the time. Right now they just have like certain pre-built configurations on the website. There wasn't an option for me to like customize the build, which is disappointing because I was going to try to upgrade the RAM to 16 gigabytes and keep everything else stock because I can still upgrade the storage if I want to later. The RAM on this, of course, is soldered on, unfortunately. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest Achilles heels of these machines, especially as they get older. The low-end entry-level model only has 8 gigabytes of RAM, which is sufficient now. That's enough for most people now. But you know how resource-intensive applications can be, Google Chrome. And so in the future, 8 gigabytes might not be sufficient, and there's no way to upgrade it. But I also, like I said, they only have like pre-built configurations on the website right now. I'm sure as it becomes more widely available, you can custom order one like you normally can with ThinkPads, but right now it's just certain pre-built configurations. And the next model up that gives you 16 gigabytes RAM and a 512 gig SSD, it was like $1,700 or $1,800. I'm like, I'm not paying that much. $1,350 minus my discount is still a lot as it is. So, but we have about 40 people watching, so I think we should open this thing up. So it just came in this bare box. I was expecting it to come in another box, but it just came like this. It's got like the information on the side, date of manufacture. This was manufactured on January 13th, 2021. So cool. Or at least that's the label that's on here. X1 Nano Gen 1. Covered up the little shipping information here. I don't need you all getting my address, even though it wouldn't be very useful because it's just a school address. Has a little handle on the top, kind of like the old MacBook boxes. So that's kind of cool. I got scissors. We're going to use scissors to do the ceremonious cutting of the Lenovo tape. And that was the laptop equivalent of driving the car off the lot. We've just appreciated its value by like 10%. So let's open this up. Ooh. Oh, okay. All right. So you get a fancier box inside the big box. Oh god, that's heavy. Oh, there's stuff in here. Okay. I was like, why is this so heavy? And it's like, oh, there's stuff in here. So we'll get the box out of the way, or the big box. So get the packing foam out of the way. I'll keep that around for completion purposes. And I just barely got this out. There's scratches on the box, so that's not a good sign. Or maybe it's just on the shrink wrap that there's scratches, I don't know. So let's see what's in here. Probably just like the power adapter and stuff. Yep. So you just got your USB Type-C power adapter. This is an interesting design. This is not the type that I'm used to, because like this is the typical, like this is a 45 watt slim tip power adapter like you see with some of the other newer ThinkPads, and it's like that brick shape. And then here I've got an older 90 watt adapter from a round barrel style plug. So this is like very, very small by comparison. And this is, oh, that's kind of a cool touch. They put like, for the cable holder thing, I forget what it's called, it's red. That's actually kind of a cool touch. And this adapter was made in November of 2020, for those of you that care. Whoa, this is a 65 watt adapter. That's kind of cool, because this is a 45 watt adapter, and it's almost the same size. This is a little heavier, but I guess they have to pack more wattage in there. So that's kind of cool. This is a 65 watt adapter, and yet it's about the same size as the old 45 watt. And then, of course, here's the old 90 watt adapter for comparison. Can you see that okay? And love the Think stack to the left. Yeah, I brought a few other models I want to compare against this once we get it open, so just wanted to be prepared. Didn't want to have to go stumbling around my stuff to get other ThinkPads. So I have a T430 with a classic keyboard mod, an A275, which is just an X270 with an AMD processor instead of Intel, T470S, which I just kind of got out because it was there. I'm not going to show that probably. X301, X300, X301, they're identical. And then the original X1 Carbon from 2012. So the way I see it, so like the X300, X301, this was like Lenovo's first attempt at like an Ultrabook kind of laptop. Or not, well, I guess the 2008 version of an Ultrabook. Like for the time, it was super thin and light, compromised a little bit on expandability and I/O, but for 2008, it was very, very thin. And what always impresses me is how they were able to keep an optical drive on such a thin laptop. And I'm working on a full review of this laptop. I've been meaning to finish it for a long time, and I just keep getting sidetracked, sometimes with school, sometimes with other video projects. And so I keep like putting this off, and it's like I want to finish this because I want to make this video and then make this video. So we'll see. But this was like Lenovo's first. This was also the first ThinkPad that like Lenovo designed themselves, because Lenovo took over the ThinkPad line around 2004, 2005, give or take, and released a few ThinkPads through 2005, 2006, 2007. But those were still going off of the IBM designs. Still, for all intents and purposes, IBM ThinkPads. This was the first ThinkPad they designed themselves. So, and then this is the first generation X1 Carbon from 2012, which is, even by modern standards, impressively thin. This also started the trend of soldering in the RAM. So, like, people are mad about the X1 Nano having soldered in RAM. And I agree, it's annoying. As I was talking about, the 8 gigabytes of RAM that are in here, it's sufficient now. In a couple of years, it probably won't be, and that's the biggest Achilles heel of this thing. This guy has 8 gigabytes of RAM, and it's from 9 years ago. But the RAM soldered in on this model too, so it's not like this was new or surprising for Lenovo's premium ultra-portable lineup. This thing from 9 years ago has soldered in RAM, so I do agree that I prefer the RAM to be upgradable, but when it comes to the X1 line of laptops, this is not anything new, so it's not surprising or anything. But this is the original X1 Carbon from 2012. Anyway, anything else in here? Oh, just the AC end of the power adapter. So, I mean, it's a cable. Like, there's nothing too important about that. But, and, so I asked at the very beginning of the stream, but since a few more of you have joined, I just want to ask, what do you guys think of the microphone that I'm using? Like, how does this audio sound compared to, like, compared to my videos, compared to my past live streams? Because one of the biggest complaints of my past live streams was that the sound quality was horrible, because I stream from my phone because it's just convenient and the picture quality is good enough. But I was just using the built-in mic, and a lot of people said that the sound quality was pretty terrible or inconsistent. So I actually have an external microphone hooked up to it, just a cheap thing that clips onto my shirt. So, sound is good, sound is good, sound is good. All right, thanks. Better than before, that's good to hear. What is my current ThinkPad? T430, at the bottom of the Think stack. T430 with a classic keyboard and full HD display. And then I saw a question I wanted to answer. Did you put the 1080p screen? What are they talking about? Which model? The sound is a bit saturated. Okay. Well, my mouth is like right by the mic, so that might be why. Sounds a little hot. Yeah, so microphone's a little bit on the hot side, but I also have a loud projector voice. Here, I'm going to adjust this a little bit. So, I am going to... Come on. Alright. Alright, so I just moved it a little bit further down, so it's not right by my mouth. So, how does this sound now? Like, I should still sound pretty clear, but a couple people said it was sounding a little too saturated, a little hot, as they say. You never did a video about putting the 1080p screen in T4. Yeah, that's another project I kind of deferred. Again, I get sidetracked. Oh, shoot. I dropped the power adapter. Sometimes I get sidetracked. Sometimes I find another video I want to do because I think it's a good time to do it, and then I just forget. And then I also, so I put in the 1080p screen in here, and I was going to just do the video on that. And then I got a hold of the low-power Full HD screens that they're putting in the T490, the T14, those models. And it's a brighter screen that uses less power. And so I got one of those screens, and I was going to put it in here and upgrade it, but it won't work in here. Like, it just gives me a blank screen. And I'm not sure if it was damaged in shipping, or if it, excuse me, if it doesn't like the Full HD adapter or whatever. Other people have done the swap successfully, but I could not get it to work. So I just put the original full 1080p, full HD 1080p screen back in, and it still works just fine. But I wanted to make it a more complete video by showcasing the low power Full HD screen, but I can't get it to work. So that was kind of the thing that delayed that project. So I'm just debating whether I want to do that or not, or just make a video with the regular IPS 1080p screen. So that's why that T430 Full HD video got delayed. That's my fault. So, but anyway, enough with the crap. Let's get this stuff out of the way. Make sure this is in the shot. Let's open this up. So, see, this is the thing. I don't have like one of those fancy knives you see the YouTubers do to like cut the packaging all nice and clean so they don't damage it. Okay, and my nails aren't quite sharp enough to... Let's just use the pen. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Just using a pen. Okay, no, let's not use the pen. Just trying to find a way that I can get this shrink wrap off cleanly. Let's try the scissors. I really should get one of those, like... I'm an idiot. I have keys. Those work a lot better. Actually, no, they don't. Sebi's Random Tech. We should rename the channel Sebi's Random Keys. It'd be a play on the 8-bit keys. Love that channel. Love the 8-bit guy. I feel really bad for, here, we're just going to do that. I don't think shrink wrap is going to affect the value of this product. I feel really bad for the 8-bit guy, because for those of you who follow him, or for those of you who don't follow him, he got pretty badly affected by the winter storms down in Texas. And a lot of parts of his house got flooded. And they're still having issues with, like, getting food and water and everything. So he's basically had to delay all of his videos because he has to recover from that. Okay. Shrink wrap is off. I was going to try and do that a little more elegantly, but again, I don't have a fancy schmancy YouTuber unboxing knife. Wow, this is a very thin box, but I guess it's a very thin machine. And I don't see those scratches on here, so the scratches I saw were just in the shrink wrap, not in the box. All right, can we get a drum roll? Drum roll, drum roll. Here we go, here we go. Up. The sound of the box separating almost sounded like really fast drum rolls. Like the way it was like sliding off, it kind of sounded like a drum roll. What the heck? They got a little splinter in there. Huh. All right. So here's the box. It's black. It has ThinkPad X1 on it. That's about all I have to say about that. It's a box. Oh, wow. That is thin. I mean, I know that's like the whole point of it. Got some stuff in there. That's underneath the plastic. Do you see that? It's like another splinter. So there was a splinter when I first took the top of the box off, and there's a little splinter underneath the plastic there. I mean, I'm not one to really nitpick. Like, these are just really little things. But, like, I just feel like that's just strange. Let's see what's under here. Oh, that's kind of cool. It's like a little door that comes up. X1. Safety and warranty guide. Doesn't look like you get any dongles. That's not good. I have a USB Type-C dongle from my T480, so that's not an issue. Safety and warranty guide. I don't think I need to show you this. And then X1. This is probably nothing, but I kind of want to look at it. ThinkPad X1 Nano Gen 1. Ooh, I like these like kind of wireframe sort of drawings on here. So this is kind of like your old startup guides that you would get with like an iPod or something. X1 Nano Gen 1. I did not get any of the accessories with this. Again, I just got the bare bones, lowest cost option. So I think you can get adapters with some of the higher end configurations, or you can just order one with it when you buy it. I did not. Because again, I already have a dongle from my T480. It's a USB Type-C dongle, so I can just use that. And then, again, touchscreen for selected models. I don't know if this one came with one or not. I don't think I ordered one. And it has all the, like, specifications for the wireless. November 2020, first edition. Cool. Human presence detection, privacy alert, Thunderbolt 4, woohoo. Alrighty, let's, how do I do this? How do I do this without, because I don't want to, like, mangle this plastic. I want to keep it nice. Oh, okay. Never mind. I was like, I'm going to be real nice and gentle with this, and the plastic said, no, you're going to be not gentle. There we go. Okay. Alrighty. I like the finish that they use on here. It's not quite the same as like the rubberized finish. Like, I think it's still kind of like a rubbery kind of finish, but it's not as rubbery as older ThinkPads. Like, Even the, this is the original X1 Carbon from 2012, and it still has that like rubberized kind of finish on it, and on the bottom too. And this one, it's a little bit more of a smoother finish, almost like a more metallic finish. I don't think it's metal, but like it gives that feeling, I guess. Actually, I think a better comparison would be like, we actually will use the T470S. I wasn't planning on showing this, but we're actually going to use it. So it's more like the T470S finish. Like, it's kind of a smoother finish. It's not quite the same rubberized coating that you usually would associate with a ThinkPad. And then this, wow, this is incredibly thin. Like, I don't think this is the thinnest laptop out there, but it is impressively thin. Has a little fan on the bottom, which I will say for a laptop that's this tiny, like, that's kind of impressive. ThinkPad X1 Nano Gen 1, January 2021. Carbon fiber plus magnesium chassis. It's kind of cool how they show that on the bottom there. That's kind of cool. And look at this. Phillips head screws. Apple, take notes. And then you got your rubber feet. This comes with Windows because I'm a simpleton. I'm a basic boy that likes my Windows. And then you have a headphone jack. That's good because I have my Audio-Technica ATH-M50Xs here. I can just plug those in. And then the two Thunderbolt 4 ports. Thunderbolt 4 and USB 4. So I think this is the first ThinkPad to have Thunderbolt 4 and USB 4. I think. I don't know. And then, of course, has a little LED for charging. You can use either plug for charging, I think. But I'm going to take this apart. Excuse me. COVID. No. Just kidding. Don't have COVID. I'm curious to see if the Thunderbolt ports are soldered on. They probably are. But you never know. Maybe Lenovo actually listens to people that review their products. Because one of my biggest criticisms of the T480 was the fact that and all newer ThinkPads, is that the Thunderbolt ports are soldered on. So if they break, or they eventually fail, or wear out, or whatever, they're very difficult to replace, unless you're good at soldering, or you can replace the motherboard, or if it's still under warranty. I can't tell if these are speakers down here, or if they're just vents, because it looks like there's speakers inside it too. But yeah, it's a very nice clean finish. Standard Phillips screws, so if you want to take this apart and replace like the one thing you can replace, you can. They don't have stupid proprietary screws like Apple does. And it's not very much of a fingerprint magnet. Like, not to the extent that some other laptops are. Like, I'm sure like it'll eventually show like some of your oils from your skin, but like it's not as like fingerprint magnety as some other ThinkPads and other laptops. Moment of truth. We're gonna open it up. Can we do the one finger? Oh, almost. Okay. I was like, can we do the one finger thing? Which I don't really care about, to be honest, but like still you see people do that. 16:10 display. That I'm already very happy about. That is the main reason I got this, because I'm generally not a fan of the X1 lineup, because I like having a ThinkPad that has a lot of ports and is very upgradable and serviceable, a little bit thicker, you know? But yeah, the main reason I got this, the main reason I was excited about it is the 16:10 display. So I'm very happy about that. This is very similar in terms of overall design to like the XPS 13 or even the MacBook Air or MacBook Pro 13-inch in terms of just the overall market that they're trying to advertise this to. Okay, key travel, it's shallower than like a T420 keyboard, but it's actually a little deeper than it looks. Like if you look at this, it looks like it would be a very shallow keyboard, but it actually has, for how thin this laptop is, it has good travel. Like, I'm genuinely surprised. How's the track point feel? Track point, it feels like a track point. Of course, we won't know for sure until I turn this thing on. Track point buttons feel good. They're evenly calibrated, like there's not loud and soft buttons. Glass touchpad, I'm pretty sure. I'm not a touchpad person, but this, I can tell this is a nice touchpad. And I do like this. It has, if you listen, it's a very quiet click. Like, you hear some laptops have a very pronounced when you click down on the touchpad, and this one's just a very subtle click. Like, you get that tactile feedback, but it's not, like, loud and clicky. And then it does look like there are speakers up here. So that's nice, because, like, oh, think stack is heavy stack. Here's the T430. This has top-firing speakers, you know? Really nice. And then with the T440 and all of the newer ThinkPads, they started putting the speakers on the bottom, which to me doesn't make sense. If you're on, like, you usually don't use your laptop like this, so it doesn't make sense to me to have the speakers on the bottom. But this, it looks like they have the speakers up here, so that's good. And I just hit it, sorry. So, there's a method to my madness. There's a reason I have a bajillion ThinkPads here. So, and then there's a Fingerprint Reader here, and it's the new touch kind, like it's just like Touch ID on an iPhone or whatever. You just tap your finger on it. And this was on the T480 as well, and in my opinion, it's a little more accurate than the old swipe style of Fingerprint Reader, like on the T430. So, oh my god, this is thin. Like, I can't get over how thin it is. And I know, like, the MacBooks have been pretty thin for a while, and the XPS 13 is really thin, but, like, this is incredibly thin. The keyboard layout, Lenovo hasn't really changed this layout all that much. They've made tiny little tweaks to some of the icons and stuff, and then they made some tweaks to, like, the LEDs and stuff over the years. But since the T430, when they introduced the modern style keyboard, actually here's the X1 Carbon for comparison. Since they introduced this style of keyboard, they really have not made that many changes to it. And actually here's a good little comparison shot for you between the first X1 Carbon and the first X1 Nano. So this is from 2012, like I said, and then this is brand new this year. And you can see the old swipe style fingerprint reader. Yeah, the touchpad on here, it's still a really nice tactile feel, but it's a lot quieter. And then this one, and that's actually not the worst. I've used other ThinkPads with much noisier touchpads. But yeah, the keyboard layout's essentially the same. The X1 Nano opts for the more shrunken down keyboard, like what they've used on the X200 series for a long time. So this is an A275. This is just an X270 with an AMD processor, as you can see there. So it used to be its own product line, and then it became part of the T series, because it was the A series for a while, the A275, the A485, or A475, A285, A485. Then with the 90 series, they made it part of the T series. So the T490 was Intel, T495 was AMD. And then X390 was Intel, X395 was AMD. And then with the new models, they've just made it one model. So there's T14 AMD, T14 Intel. So, but yeah, so this is the A275. So it uses a similar layout to the A275 with the insert key combined with the end key, as opposed to them being separate on the larger ThinkPad keyboards. And yeah, like, even compared to these older chiclet keyboards, like, when you look at this, when it's deceptive, it looks like the key travel would be less than what it is. But yeah, I mean, I'm impressed with Lenovo. They have managed to keep decent key travel despite the keyboard and the laptop being so much thinner. Will I still use a classic keyboard any day? Yes, I will. I will always prefer the classic keyboard. But I am impressed. so far. Of course, when I actually use it and type on it, that might be a different story. But my first impression of the keyboard, like, it's not bad. It's definitely better than what would be on an XPS 13 or a MacBook. And yes, Apple did go back to scissor switch keys, and they call it the Magic Keyboard. But I did try one of those. Right before the pandemic, I tried out a 16-inch MacBook Pro, and I was not impressed with it, to be honest. So even when they moved away from the butterfly keyboard, moved back to scissor switch keys, I was not really that impressed. Is this keyboard as good as a classic ThinkPad T420 or T60 keyboard? That's up to your interpretation. I don't think so, but everybody has a different preference. But it is still an excellent keyboard, and I am impressed that on something this thin, they can still have a good keyboard. Let's see if there's any charge on this. Yeah, I didn't think so. We've had some really cold couple of days here, so I'm not surprised at all by that. So we're going to plug this in. Try not to knock over the camera in the process. You know, it would help if I plugged this in. I was like, why didn't it do anything? And I'm like, oh, it's not plugged in. Right, now it's plugged in. We got the little indicator light. I believe it's orange when it's charging, and then when it gets fully charged or close to fully charged, it turns to white, I think. So let's power this on. Oh, here we go. Ooh, this is a nice screen. Again, the screen is 90% of the reason why I decided to purchase this. And it's pretty nice so far. And then you also have the webcam up here. Think shutter webcam. Let's turn this off for a second because I'm curious. Not very much backlight bleed that I can see. That's good. Some of these IPS displays, you get them and you have some really strong backlight bleed. Does not appear to be the case on here, but of course that can vary from unit to unit. I might get a good one, somebody else might not. And of course, since it's the very first boot up of this machine, it takes a little while. And I'm probably not going to do much actual playing around. I mostly just wanted to open this up and get my first impressions of the laptop itself. I mean, like, going on here, like, it's Windows. Big deal. I don't think you need to see what Windows looks like. But I wanted to show what the laptop and everything looks like. I'm going to get connected to the Wi-Fi here. I hate how Windows defaults to a pin for the Wi-Fi now instead of the security key, because I've always used this security key. I don't know anybody who uses a pin for their Wi-Fi, but now it seems that Windows defaults to that. Connected. Also, there's a Wi-Fi network somebody has around here called the Lion's Den. I think that's kind of funny. I like that. Not that it's relevant to anything at all. And I do like the way that this surface feels. I mean, it's not too dissimilar from what the original X1 Carbon feels like. Like, it's not exactly a rubberized finish, but it's like a very smooth, nice feeling finish that you rest your hands on. Very similar sort of thing here. Like, very similar kind of finish here on the palm rest between these two. License agreement, accept, blah, blah, blah. The stuff you probably should read through to see how much they're spying on you, but, you know, nobody actually reads. Set up for personal use, offline account. No, I don't care. Sebastian. Yeah, I like this keyboard. Not going to do a password for now. I do put a password on here, but for the sake of this video, For the sake of this live stream, I'm just kind of skipping through everything. Oh, for God's sakes, just... Can I do this later? Yes, I can. Okay. Hi! Getting everything ready for you. And then this should make all of the bezel people happy, because the bezels are incredibly thin. I, for one, don't give a crap about the bezels. Like, I see in almost every tech video on YouTube, people are like, the bezels are too thick. Ah, the bezels, it looks like a computer from 2008, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't care about bezels. I care about the laptop. But for those of you who are obsessive over bezels, you'll be happy to know that this has very thin bezels, at least in my opinion. Not that the X1 Carbon from 2012 had thick bezels. I mean, this looks pretty thin in my opinion. But yeah, so it's very thin there, you know. Let me get this paperwork out of the way. And while this is doing its stuff, I guess it's a good opportunity for me to look at some stuff. If you're looking at the screen, you won't notice bezels anyway. That is very true. You know, I also just noticed that this entire time, it's been kind of out of focus. So I sincerely apologize for that. There's not much I can really do about that. It doesn't let me change the... Yeah, it doesn't let me change the focus while it's streaming. That's so stupid. I don't know if that's my phone or the limitations of the YouTube app, so I just noticed that. It's like a little bit out of focus, and I apologize for that. Yes, I don't use Linux. That's just my personal... That's my personal preference. It's not for any, like, deep state conspiracy theory reason. I just don't like Linux. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I like it in the sense that I like the freedom and customization that it offers. And I do like having an open source option available. For my workload, for my usage, it's just easier for me to use Windows. And I'm not going to completely relearn how to use an operating system just for the sake of using Linux, because there's really no reason for me to. But I do play around with it every now and then, and I do actually have an older ThinkPad that Linux is the operating system on it. But I just use that every once in a while just to play around, and if I'm doing things like making a patched keyboard file for a T430 or whatever, like, you have to do that in Linux. You can't do that in Windows. So, like, that's just my preference. It's not, like, any crazy reason. I just prefer to use Windows. Unfortunately, a lot of people have a problem with that. I've gotten some very nasty comments directed my way strictly because I use Windows instead of Linux, but, you know, that's whatever. Yeah, 8 gigabytes of RAM. What computer the best for Lenovo's laptop starter? I'm not exactly sure what you're trying to ask, but if you're talking like what's a good like entry-level laptop, depends on if you want to buy new or used. If you're buying a brand new ThinkPad, I think the L series is one of the better options because it's fairly affordable. And it still is very upgradable for what it is. Like, the L series still has upgradable RAM, at least the 14 and 15-inch ones do, as opposed to these thinner machines that obviously don't. Whoops. I'm loving this screen, though. Like, it's a really good screen. How bright can we make it? Oh, that's only... Oh, wait. All right, there we go. Put on function lock like a real man. Yeah, that actually gets fairly bright. Like, not that this is a good test of that, but like it's a nice looking screen. Then you have your backlit keyboard. That's the same as it's always been. But I am impressed by the screen so far. Go away, I just want to use Edge. I don't want to... There we go. Okay, that's actually a nice picture, too. I think that's a nice picture. See if I can find a really good image of something. Let's see if I can find a good picture. You knew I was going to implement streetcars in this video somehow. I want a colorful picture. There we go. Let's get the psychedelic streetcar. Yeah. Look at that. Not really a good demonstration of the colors, but I just think that looks really cool. You know, the problem is I'm using Bing instead of Google. Let's fix that. There we go. Now let's look at some pictures. I'll just do a Pittsburgh picture. Pittsburgh picture. That's a tongue twister. Try saying that 3 times fast. Yeah, that's a nice picture. Not that you can really tell on camera, but it looks nice. Yeah. So, again, I'm not going too in-depth with, like, actually using the machine in this live stream. I just wanted to, like, open the thing up and, you know, get it all out of my system, you know. Let's see if there's any other questions people have asked. How long did you plan on keeping the X1 Nano? I don't know. If Edge is better than Google, in my opinion. Well, it's funny you say that because right now Edge is Chrome-based. So it's literally just Chrome with a Microsoft skin on it. But yeah, older Edge was actually its own thing. I don't know how I plan on keeping it. If I really, really like it, I might actually keep it. Just, you know, to have a nice newer machine around. If I don't like it, then I might return it. I might sell it to somebody. I don't know. But either way, I'm definitely making a video about it. That's like the main reason I got this. Someone asked if the keyboard's different on the X1. So this is the X1 Carbon from 2012. Almost the same keyboard in terms of layout. Of course, the actual like mechanism and construction is different, but the layout's very similar. They did what they've been doing for a while on the smaller X series machines, like the 12 and 13-inch X series machines, where they make the insert key part of the end key instead of its own separate button on the larger keyboards. But other than that, the layout's basically the same as it's always been for the chiclet keyboards on ThinkPads. Is the T480 your current daily? No, I'm using the T430. Kenneth asked, how did I get it? This sounds so silly. I went on Lenovo's website and I placed an order. And a couple days later, they shipped it. And a couple of days after that, it showed up in the mail. It's kind of funny, there's been a few people here in the chat that have been like, how did you get it? People think I have like an insider connection or something. I don't. Lenovo doesn't send me these things. I pay for them all with my own money. Money from YouTube ad revenue and stuff like that. So, yeah, this is actually the very, very first time I've purchased something brand new directly from Lenovo. The T480 I purchased, it was brand new, but it was from a third party. It wasn't directly from Lenovo. So this is my first time getting a brand new laptop directly from Lenovo. First time going through the checkout experience and the shipping experience. So that's kind of interesting just for the fact that it's my first time getting a brand new laptop from Lenovo. And I will say, I mean, I might talk about this in the video. I was a little bit disappointed. How long did Lenovo take to ship it? So I ordered it on Thursday. I ordered it Thursday morning. And then it was originally supposed to ship out Friday and arrive here by Tuesday, which would have been yesterday. But they didn't ship it until Monday or Tuesday. It was either late Monday or early Tuesday that they shipped it out. So it got here today. But I will say, impressively, especially considering UPS was the company that shipped it, it got here. They shipped it like late Monday or early Tuesday, I forget, and it showed up today. So I'm a little annoyed that it took Lenovo a little while longer to get it shipped out, but I'm kind of impressed that that UPS made up the difference, and it got here a day later than it was supposed to. But it could be a lot worse. There's a lot of people I've seen on the ThinkPad subreddit and in the ThinkPad forums where they order a laptop and it takes several months to get there. And that can be for any number of reasons. It could be because they had a custom order and it had to be sent to the factory, actually built, and then shipped to whatever country, and then whatever. Stuff like that happens, and I feel really bad for those people. This one was just like their pre-built configuration. Right now, I don't think they're doing custom builds for the T4 or for the X1 Nano just yet. So somebody asked if anything is upgradable in here. The storage is upgradable. I think it's just a 2242 NVMe drive. So that can be replaced. So this is still more upgradable than a MacBook Pro. So yay. And Henry is right. There really have not been too many laptops with upgradable CPUs since 2013, 2014, because Intel stopped offering socketed mobile CPUs in that year, in that time. The Haswell generation was the last generation where Intel offered socketed laptop CPUs. So after that generation, if you wanted to have a socketed CPU, you either had to use a desktop CPU or probably make some type of custom socket or whatever. Oh, that's kind of cool. That must be the motion detection or the person detection thing at work, because the screen dimmed and I got close. I was going to like just touch the touchpad to light it up, and before I even touched it, it lit back up because it detected that I was there. Okay, that is kind of cool. And I know that that's like, I don't think this is the only laptop that has that. I think other ThinkPads have this now with like the IR motion sensor or whatever. But I still thought that was really cool because that's the first time I've ever seen something like that. I was like, that's really cool. Let's change the time zone. For some reason, Windows defaults at Pacific time, even though I'm in Eastern time. So let's fix that. Oops. Oh, there we go. Eastern time. There we go. Got the time right now. Microphone up. I guess it's installing drivers. Good old Windows. Like, I saw the microphone thing come on and off. I'm like, what's it doing? Is it trying to listen to me? And it's like, no, it's installing updates of some kind. And let's see what other things we're talking about. Where's the Nano in the ThinkPad line? Halo model? I don't know. When I was shopping for laptops, I couldn't help but keep on up ThinkPads because I since seeing them, and I'm happy I got one. Thorogrim. What model ThinkPad did you get? I'm just curious. Is that a new power adapter relative to the T480? Yes, it's a smaller power adapter. So like the T480 that I have, the power adapter is very similar to this, except it uses USB Type-C. This is a slim tip adapter. But it was built like this, has USB Type-C. This one has a much smaller power adapter, which reminds me a lot of like the Dell XPS power adapter. It's like the smaller, little rounder thing. And yes, it's a 65 watt power adapter. So I was like, that's really cool. So that was kind of interesting. Do you think a T420 is still very usable? Yes, I do. My daily driver is still a T430, which is one generation newer, and it's still very usable for what I need. The only thing it sucks at is battery life. And the battery life is still really good. With a properly charged 9-cell battery, I can still get like 5 or 6 hours out of it. But today, my battery showed its age. I was sitting out in the living room waiting for the delivery truck to come, and I had a class. So I brought my laptop out, logged on to Zoom, only had it unplugged for about 25 minutes, and then it just went dead. So my battery is going dead on that one, even though I just replaced it a year ago. But you got a P14S with Ryzen. Nice. That's awesome. I'm actually really excited about the new L14 that they just announced. They announced the L14 Gen 2 with AMD Ryzen 5000 processors. So I'm thinking about getting that. Am I stupid for selling my maxed out T440p for a T480? No, you're not. If you enjoy the T480, there's nothing wrong with that. That's not stupid. Having no USB 3 in 2021 is a kick in the butt. It depends. If you're always transferring files, then yes, it is. But if you're like, if the only thing you ever plug into a USB port is like an external mouse or something, then it doesn't matter if it's USB 2 or 3. Your T430 battery is going the way of all my T6S batteries. Yes. Are you going to make a video about the USB-C mod for T430? No, I'm not, because I frankly don't really care. Like, I think it's cool that people are retrofitting USB-C onto older ThinkPads. Like, I see them putting it on X220s, X230s, T430s, T440Ps. Like, I think that's really cool that they do that, but that's something I'm personally not really interested in doing, because I see no problem with just using the original power adapter. Would you make a video upgrading the T430 screen to 1080p with modern cable? Yeah, I talked about that earlier in the stream. Like, because somebody asked why I hadn't made the video yet, and it was because I wanted to show a different display in it. Said display did not work, so I ended up scrapping that aspect of things. So I basically have all the footage ready. I just haven't edited it together. Will this be watchable after the stream is over? Yeah, I generally keep these streams up after I do them because I think they're good to keep up as a reference. But yeah, so I am working on a 1080p video for the T430. It's just one of those things that I keep having to set back for various reasons. There's a lot of questions here. I may not get to all of them, but I do want to try to answer as many as I can. Also, the 4000, 5000 APUs aren't smoothly supported by the Linux kernel. Yeah, so ThinkPads are generally really, really good when it comes to Linux compatibility. Like, they're one of the better laptops for Linux. But I do know, like, certain things, like dedicated GPUs and AMD processors and stuff, aren't quite as smooth sailing with Linux, which is another reason why I stick to Windows. But like I said, it's a matter of preference. I have no problem with people who use Linux. I just prefer not to use it myself. The human presence detection is customized in the BIOS, by the way, not in software. That's interesting. P1 has a better screen, Intel iGPUs, blah, blah, blah. T480. P1 doesn't have the stupid right-hand side vent. That is true. Where is the vent on this one? Oh yeah, vent is here. So it looks like if this thing really heats up, I might have a little space heater right here, whether I like it or not. 2242 drive is upgradable. Yeah. Is there a point where ThinkPad hardware, like in the 400 series, gets a little too outdated? Not entirely sure what you mean by that question. Can you swap a keyboard on a T480? If you're referring to putting a classic keyboard into a T480, it is technically possible. You can technically put a T25 keyboard, the 25th anniversary keyboard, into a T480. But it requires a lot of physical modifications, and as of right now, I don't think there is a mod that allows all of the keys to work correctly. So it's not like the T430 where you basically just swap it in, do a little patch, and it works. So T14 custom ordered, going to take 5 months. Yeah, so I kind of lucked out with this, because between the time I ordered this and the time it arrived was just under a week, which I'm kind of impressed because I've heard horror stories about Lenovo's shipping times. Lenovo's UPS shipping is great. I generally don't care for UPS. I've personally had a bad track record with them. They have a tendency of using my packages as target practice, or forgetting about them, or shipping them to Puerto Rico, or taking them to the wrong building, or forgetting about them. not arriving at all, losing them, that kind of stuff. But this time, they actually did a good job. I mean, Lenovo was late sending it out, but UPS got it from North Carolina to Pennsylvania in, like, a day. So, trying to see, do you think it's the most compelling ThinkPad in the current lineup? Yes and no. It depends on what you want. If you want the thinnest, lightest, most premium ThinkPad, this is the one to get, because it is, as far as I know, the thinnest ThinkPad that's ever been made. And it does have an excellent screen. I don't know how good the color accuracy is, but when it comes to just looking nice to the eyes, looking pleasant to look at, this is a nice screen. And it's 16 by 10, which I love. This is the first ThinkPad that's had a 16 by 10 display since the X201, W701, and T410 11 years ago. So that's awesome. I know the X1 tablet was a 3x2 display, I think. And then the X1 Fold that they made is, I don't know, some aspect ratio. It's a folding screen, whatever. But in terms of like just mainstream ThinkPad, traditional laptop ThinkPad, this is the first one with a 1610 display in 11 years, so I'm excited about that. So if that's what you want, this might be the laptop for you. But they also just announced the 9th generation X1 Carbon, which will also have a 16 by 10 display. And as I said earlier in the stream, they also just announced that the new X13, that's the traditional X series, like the old X220, X230, the new X13 will have a 16 by 10 display. So the way I see it, if you're really going after that 16 by 10 display, if you want the thinnest and lightest machine out there, this is the one for you. If you want something a little bit thicker, a little bit cheaper, and one that has more ports like USB and HDMI, that kind of thing, then the X13 might be the better option. But unfortunately, the X13 also has soldered RAM, so upgradability between these two is basically the same. It's just the X13 is a little thicker and a little cheaper. So for the person that asked, like, is this the most desired ThinkPad or whatever, I say it depends on what kind of person you are and what you're looking for in a laptop. For some people, this is perfect. And for some people, this is not what they're looking for. For someone like me, I prefer a thicker laptop with more ports and more upgradability. But I also like to keep an open mind. Don't knock it till you try it. Figured this was worth trying. I do like it so far. I don't know how the long-term reliability of these things will be, and I don't know how much the currently only 8 gigabytes of RAM in this base model will hinder its performance as it gets older. But I do like it overall, so far. Again, this is first impressions. I might use this for a few weeks and say, you know, I really don't like that, I really don't like that, I like this. It depends. You're not going to know from the first time using it. There's the Think Shutter, by the way. And I think with the Think Shutter, the IR camera, or the IR part of it still works, even if you have the shutter closed. But if you're one of those people that's really concerned about privacy, you don't have to do the old thing of putting a Post-it note on top of the webcam. You can just slide the shutter over. And now nobody can watch you, presumably. So, presumably, or whatever. I wonder how this keyboard sounds. Or not keyboard. Keyboard. I wonder how the speakers on here sound. Can I find something that won't get me a copyright strike? That's always the question. What can I... Oh god, that's a lot of crap. Copyright-free music. Let's see what we find. Actually, I'm stupid. You know what is copyright-free? Classical music. Let's get some Verdi. Let's get some Verdi Requiem. Yes, yes. They'll find a way to get a copyright strike on one of these. I know it. Turba mero. I can't Latin, but... Ooh, that's loud. Oh, wow. That gets loud. This gets really loud. That's... Ooh. Sweet. I don't know how that came through on the microphone, but this actually has a little bit of bass to it. It's not going to be like replacing your subwoofer or anything, but that actually sounds pretty good, especially for how small this laptop is. And I think having the front-firing speakers really helps, as opposed to just having them on the bottom. But compared to my older T430, like, that got pretty loud. Like, that was almost at the point that it was starting to hurt my ears. And again, you're not going to get, like, subwoofer results out of this thing, but there's actually a little bit of bass to it. It's not, like, super, super tinny like some laptop speakers. Is this going to be as good as MacBook when it comes to the speakers? Probably not. If there's anything MacBooks do right, it's the speakers. They have excellent speakers in the newer models. But that's not enough of a reason to buy one, in my opinion. But these are actually nice speakers. Like, they're nice speakers. Yeah. That was the one thing I wanted to test with these, because I was really intrigued by the up-firing speakers. Those sound really good. Not going to replace my ATH M50Xs, but they sound really good. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about a lot of things. Again, first time getting a brand new laptop from Lenovo, so very excited about that. I think I'm going to answer a few more questions, or read a few more of your comments, and then we're going to take this to an end, because I don't want to turn this into like an all-night extravaganza, as much as some of you would probably like that. I do have stuff to do. I already promised a friend I was going to hang out with him tonight. And yeah, front top firing speakers definitely helps, yes. I clocked mine just shy of 100 dB maxed out. That is case flex when I was using the touchpad. Oh yeah. But it's not too bad. Like, it's not like Galloping Gertie over here. Like, it flexes a little bit, but see, that's another thing. So, like, you see these YouTubers talk about things like the screen bezels being too thick and the chassis having too much flex. These really don't, like, there's a little bit of flex, but, like, that's when I really put some oomph into it. And laptops have to have a little bit of flex. They can't be just this perfectly solid, rigid piece of plastic, metal, whatever. It has to have a little bit of flex, because that helps reduce stress. If there's too much flex, that's not good, but if there's no flex, then it's more brittle, and it can crack and break more easily. That's why, like, when you design a bridge or a skyscraper or whatever, there's always like a certain level of tolerance built into it that it has some room to basically expand and contract. I'm not an engineer, but that's my understanding. And it's the same with a laptop. Like, yes, there's a little bit of flex, but it's not like a crazy amount of flex. And I think it's within reasonable tolerances. That's my opinion. So it always makes me laugh when I see people on YouTube like going like this onto the keyboard and being like, look, it flexes. And I'm like, yeah, it's supposed to do that. That's what it's designed to do. I think Louis Rossmann talked about that in one of his videos. How do you feel about the IdeaPad products? They are hit or miss. My one friend got a... Actually, no. My one friend got a Legion, so that's not a good comparison. But I have a few friends that use the IdeaPads, and they've had good luck with them. But I've also had people say that they're complete junk. So I personally have never used one for a substantial amount of time, so I can't really give you a good opinion about that. Flex is better than break, that is true. Will you take it apart? Yes, I will. What time is it there? It is 7:10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. My main income, get some money from YouTube, get some money from working on laptops, and then, you know, the various usual part-time jobs and stuff. Message retracted? Aw, well now I want to see what the message was. Does it have a replaceable battery? It is not a hot swappable battery like on older ThinkPads. Like, there's no battery on the outside. But it is replaceable. It's not like glued in like on some of the MacBooks or on some of the phones now. So can look at reviews of other laptops, they all report the same thing. Anyone know if Ryzen IR? My A45 is superbly underwhelming. Well, I think the A45 was pre-Ryzen. I think the newer Ryzens are a lot better. Is it worth training to use the red dot? Yes, it is, in my opinion. Because when I first got into ThinkPads, my very first ThinkPad was an IBM ThinkPad R51. My sister gave it to me when she went to college and got a MacBook, and so I fixed it up and I used it for a while before I got the T430, which was my first modern ThinkPad. And I did use the touchpad at first. Because my first laptop was actually a MacBook, an A1181 early 2008 MacBook 4,1. And so it only had a touchpad. So when I started using the ThinkPad R51, I used the touchpad, but I found myself starting to kind of gravitate towards the track point. And at first it was a little tricky, like I'd kind of be like maneuvering it around and like being like, there we go. And then I would say after about a week or two, it started to come naturally. And now, in my opinion, like I prefer this over a touchpad. I mean, the touchpad is nice. This actually is a really nice touchpad. It tracks really well. It feels really nice to use. But I still prefer the track point. And then that's one thing I will say. You can criticize Lenovo all you want. And trust me, there are plenty of reasons to criticize Lenovo. But I will give them credit for keeping the track point around after all of these years when most other manufacturers have abandoned it. Because, you know, most other laptop manufacturers did have a similar pointing stick at one point on their laptops, or at least on their business models. I think Dell and HP still have them on their Latitudes and Elite books, but I'm not sure. I think they do. But for the most part, like, pointing sticks have fallen out of style, and I do commend Lenovo for keeping them around, when they very easily could have just said, yeah, we're going to get rid of it. Oh yeah, the R51 video. What is the best cheap ThinkPad? Well, it depends on if you want a new cheap ThinkPad or a used cheap ThinkPad. If you're buying new, I would say go with the L series. If you want used, that depends on what you're looking for. Looking to get a P17. That thing is a beast, Carl Zimmerman. P17 is a beast. I would love to try one of those, but those are so obscenely expensive. I'm not going to buy one of those. How can you set different profiles for undervolting? Frankly, I have no idea. I've wanted to dig into that a little bit and try that out on a few of my ThinkPads, but I've just never gotten around to it. How do you feel about the Legion series? They're all right. They're very powerful, but very cheaply built from what I've seen. But one of my friends got a Legion for college, and he's had it for about 2 years, and he's liked it so far. Let me see. I scrolled up through here. Let me see if there's any other big things I missed. Shame about full-size SD cards. I agree. X1 Titanium, what is that? I don't think I know what that is. Interlux panel apparently covers 100% sRGB. Well, that's good to know. How does this compare to M1 and future ARM chips? I don't know. The M1 is pretty impressive with how much performance it gives while using less power. It's a lot more power efficient than the Intel processors that were being used in the MacBooks before. But Apple does a lot of other crappy stuff, so I really don't care about the M1 processors. It's like, it's cool that Apple can make their products more battery efficient, more power efficient and all of that, and implement their ecosystem easier, but I mean, just watch Louis Rossmann's videos. That tells you mostly how I feel about Apple. I don't have it in here, and I'm not going to run and get it, but I actually have the Louis Rossmann Repair Group mug that says it's not, they're not lying, it's commercial real estate. I got that mug because I wanted to kind of support his channel and his shop, and I also really like that quote. So I got the mug from the from Rossmann Repair Group that has that quote on it. Yeah, COVID has definitely made the prices of laptops increase, because there's so many more people working from home and there's a lot of demand for laptops, because people don't really generally want to buy a desktop anymore unless it's for like performance or enthusiast reasons. Like I have a desktop because it lets me play games with better graphics and it lets me render videos faster. But most people really don't need all that powerful of a system, and so it's easier to just get a laptop than buy a desktop. And so that combination of factors and the whole pandemic thing has caused the price of used laptops to skyrocket. Is the quad-core ultra processor in the T4 that much faster than the dual-core ultra? The way I see it, for general use case, like if you're just browsing the web or using Microsoft Office or like doing light Photoshop work, you really won't notice a difference between the older dual-core chips and the newer quad-core chips. If you're doing anything that's more CPU intensive, if you're doing gaming or rendering or compiling or anything like that, then you would definitely benefit from the newer quad-core chips. And I think some of the newer ones also have hexa-core and octa-core chips in their laptops. So you definitely benefit from that, but if you're just getting a laptop to go on Facebook and check your email, you don't need a quad-core processor, at least right now. That very well could change, but right now you don't. To answer that question. Let's see what else. I'm just going to answer a few more, and then I'm going to end this. I thought this was an X1 Fold video. I don't even consider the X1 Fold to be a ThinkPad because it doesn't have a track point. And the keyboard they give with it does not have a track point. So even though it has the ThinkPad brand, I don't consider the X1 Fold to be a ThinkPad. Have you ever tried the ThinkPad USB keyboards? I have not, and I've wanted to, but they're so darn expensive that for me it's not worth it. It's just a ThinkPad keyboard. If I want to type on a ThinkPad keyboard, I pull out one of my 10,000 ThinkPads and I type on it. Which of your ThinkPads can... How's the keyboard on the X1 Nano? I talked about this earlier in the stream. It's pleasantly surprising. Is it as good as a T420 keyboard? No, it is not. But it's kind of deceptive because the way the keyboard is designed, it looks like it has less travel than it actually does. It does have less travel than like a T420 keyboard, but it still offers a decent amount of travel, especially for being such a thin laptop. So I like it so far, but we'll see how it holds up over the long term. How's the build quality? Well, I just got this, so I can't really tell you. I can't give you an accurate observation about that. Which of your ThinkPads can and can't handle your video editing workload? I use my desktop for video editing, but I used to use my T430 to edit videos, actually. Up until around the end of 2018, the end of 2018 was when I started using a desktop instead. But up until that point, all of my videos were edited on my ThinkPad, T430. So, and I do 1080p 60 frame per second videos, so that just gives you a baseline idea. Reasons to hate Lenovo in your opinion? Horrible shipping times for some products. I mean, this one wasn't too bad, but it was still, they took a lot longer to get it shipped out than they said they would. So I was a little disappointed about that. I've heard horror stories about customer service, but I have never done customer service because I usually just repair these things myself. So for me, I don't really care. I don't like the way that they're taking the newer ThinkPads. Like, I am okay with machines like the X1 product line being these super thin and light laptops with no ports and no upgradability. What I don't like is how they're taking the thicker models like the T series and making them more into cheaper X1s. Like the new T14S and the T490S, it's basically just a thicker, cheaper X1 carbon because you can't upgrade the RAM. And I don't like that. I wish that Lenovo would keep it separate, like have the X1 line as the ultra portable, ultra premium, thin and light laptop. Have the T series as the middle of the ground, tried and true, good ports, good upgradability, but still portable ThinkPad. And then have the P series as like the really thick and heavy workstation. And Lenovo seems to want to make everything just a different variation of the X1 Carbon, and I don't like that. So, what's the difference between the T, L, and P series? T series is like your typical middle-of-the-ground ThinkPad. The L series is a more affordable version of the T series, and the P series is their high-end mobile workstation lineup. I miss the all-night video extravaganza videos. So do I, but I have to keep somewhat of a good sleep schedule. ThinkPads have been traditionally known for having good keyboards. Yes, they have. ThinkPads, I think, have the best keyboards of any laptop, except for like that one gaming laptop that they put like a full-sized mechanical keyboard on it. That obviously was a little better, but that thing was also like 20 pounds. Another retracted message. How sad. See if there's any other like major questions or things. Yeah, I think I got to just about everybody that I wanted to get to. Which laptop did they put a mechanical keyboard on? I frankly don't remember. I just remember seeing a video from like one of the big tech channels like 3 or 4 years ago where they're like, look at this big gaming laptop. It has a mechanical keyboard on it. I think it was, I want to say it was like Asus or Acer or something like that, but I don't remember. Acer Predator 21X, maybe. On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you to have the X1 Nano? I'd say around a 7.5, because like, I'm really not digging the lack of ports and the lack of upgradability, but I am really excited about the 16:10 display and the really, really nice speakers that it has, and just how thin it is. Like, even with the lack of repairability and upgrades that this thing has, you do have to show a little bit of awe at how thin it is. It is really impressive to me. Where do you see announcements about new Lenovo laptops? r/ThinkPad. Just go on the ThinkPad subreddit. That's all I have to say. People always talk about the new announcements there. Keep the train videos coming. Thank you. Glad somebody likes those. T450S or X250? Depends on what you want. If you want a larger screen, go for the T450S. And if you want a larger keyboard, go for the T450S. If you want a smaller laptop, go for the X250. Other than that, they're basically the same, performance-wise. Are you going to use the X1 Nano as a main for a while? Yes, I am. That's the idea. I'm going to use it as my main laptop for a little while, and then make a more in-depth video about it, like a review. T-Series is targeted towards businesses. That's a good way of looking at it. Dude, I also love the train videos. Thank you. I'm glad 2 people like it. How much is its cost of the configuration, and how much do you think it would cost 1 year from now? No idea how much it would cost a year from now, because especially with the pandemic, prices have been all over the place on used laptops. Right now, this configuration, I paid, the normal price would be $13.50 plus tax, US, but I paid a little less for it because I get a student discount because I'm currently in college. How many hours of Cities Skylines have you played? Too many. Make it 3 for the train videos. Yay! Somebody else likes them. How to fix blue screen on T61? That is way too vague of a question. I would need a lot more information to be able to help you with that. I'm waiting for someone to put a Model M in a laptop. Oh, that would be wonderful. I think there were a few like IBM luggables back in the 80s that had buckling spring keyboards, but obviously those are completely obsolete and not exactly easy to carry around. Can we get a thickness comparison to some older X series laptops like the X230? I don't have any X230s right now. Do you have the ThinkPad with the butterfly keyboard? I don't. About a year ago, one of my friends lent it to me because he has one, the 701 CS. He lent it to me, and I was going to make a video about it, but I didn't get enough footage that I thought it would be a good video. So I've kind of just shelved that until I can get more footage. And then I might make a video about it, but I don't personally have a butterfly keyboard ThinkPad. Which model is that on the left? I see it has physical buttons at the top. This, on the left, is the first generation X1 Carbon from 2012. So this is the first generation X1 Nano. This is the first generation X1 Carbon. IBM Model M was buckling spring. Yes, I know. Do you prefer the cable docks or the mechanical docks? I prefer the mechanical docks just because it's so much cooler to go plop and put the laptop down in the dock than it is to just plug a dinky little cable in. At least the Nano has classic hinge design. The new X1 Carbon isn't. I'm not sure what you mean by that. I'll have to look at it and see. Do you play Minecraft? No, I don't. A few of my friends from school actually just made a Minecraft server, and they were trying to get me to join it, and I'm like, no thanks. What's the deal with the T460p model? Is the processor swappable? The processor in the T460p is not hot swappable, but it is a higher performing processor. So the regular T460 and the T460S use Ultrabook processors. The T460p uses a proper quad-core HQ processor. So if you need the better performance, the T460p would be better than the T460. The X1 Gen 9 has the center bar hinge thing. Oh, I hate that. Oh, God, now I'm not excited about the X1 Carbon Gen 9. I was excited about the X1 Carbon Gen 9 because it has a 16:10 display, but if it has that weird center bar hinge thing, that's stupid. How much performance upgrade would I get on a T430 if I put in an SSD? SSDs are one of the singular biggest improvements you can make to a laptop. In 2021, you should not even bother with a hard drive. If you don't have an SSD in your system, get one. It's literally the biggest performance improvement you can get for a computer. So whoever asked about the SSD in a T430, definitely consider it because it doesn't matter what brand you get. I mean, Samsungs are really reliable, but any SSD is going to be a huge improvement over a hard drive. So definitely recommend that. X1 Carbon Gen 1, any better than the X230? X1 Carbon Gen 1, it has a bigger screen, has a bigger keyboard, that's it. But it has soldered RAM, so that's a bit of a trade-off. But it is thinner, so that's cool. Let's see if there are any other. Love the vids, keep them coming, thank you. Do you remember the new type of hinges? I don't know what that is. I like having a single USB cable charging my laptop, powering the battery, monitor, blah, blah, blah. This one's more for the chat. Fedora or Arch? Yeah, I'm not going to get into that discussion. So that one is definitely for the chat. Speaking of Linux, is that something you're into for your ThinkPad collection? I already answered that. So when this stream ends, it's gonna be posted like a normal video, and then you can see the earlier in the stream where I talked about that. I've heard that some X1 Carbons have keyboard problems. Do you remember which one? I don't. I know the second gen X1 Carbon had a really strange keyboard, and it had like a adaptive keyboard thing, kind of like the touch bar on the MacBook Pros. Nobody liked it, so they went back to a regular keyboard with the Gen 3 X1 Carbon. But I can't remember if there was a model that had like issues with the keyboard. Is there any Lenovo laptop with the AMD 58XX 59XS processor? If you're talking about the new 5000 series processors, the new ThinkPads coming out this year will have the 5000 series AMD processors, if that's what you're referring to. Any more questions? Because we've been streaming for about an hour and a half, and I would like to wrap things up. So if you have any more questions, now is your time. Have you ever played Undertale? I have. It's a terrific game. I really enjoyed that game. And I like the music in it too. I remember a while ago I was trying to learn one of the songs on the piano and then never finished it. X1 Nano versus T14. Too early to tell. I'll have to spend more time on this before I make an opinion about that. Thank you for your videos. They're in the top of YouTube results. Following you for 2 years now. Thank you. Is the T510 a good laptop? Yes, it is, but look for a T520 or a T530 instead because you'll get newer hardware in those. Pissed about the new T15 being Intel only. Yeah, I saw that and I was like, what the heck? But maybe that's what next year is for. What ThinkPad would you recommend for a very long battery life? That's hard to say because there's a lot of different models that get good battery life. If you can get like anything from the T440 to the T480 or the X240 through the X270, because those have the hot swappable dual battery system, and you get a 6-cell 72 watt-hour external battery combined with the 24 watt-hour internal battery, you'll get excellent battery life on that. And then, like, there's various newer ThinkPads. Basically, any of these that use the lower power Ultrabook processors, you'll get good battery life out of these. Generally, just stay away from the really thick ThinkPads if you want good battery life, which really sucks because I like the thick ThinkPads for their power. But if you want better battery life, generally any of these Ultrabook ThinkPads will get a pretty good amount of life. And again, the older ones with the hot swappable batteries get a nice big 72 watt-hour battery, and you'll have a lot of time away from an outlet with that. What's the difference in build quality, if any? I'm not sure what you're comparing. Thank you about the train videos. I appreciate the comments about the train videos. I love that. Have you heard about core boot for the T440p? I have, and that would be interesting to talk about at some point. I'm not sure what you're asking about the difference in build quality. Which do you prefer in terms of AMD versus Intel? Intel is better for certain applications, but I think AMD gives you more bang for your buck. And I believe the AMD ThinkPads are generally cheaper than the Intel counterparts, reflective of the prices of those processors if you were to put them in a PC build. So that's ultimately your choice, but I think AMD offers a better value. T460p having quad core, can you put a quad core in the T400S series? No, you can't. The processors in those laptops are soldered. We make a detailed video about core boot on the T430. I want to make a video about Ivy Rain on the T430. That's been out for over a year at this point, and I still haven't done a video about it. But basically with Ivy Rain, it allows you to put custom BIOSes on the T430 without using a flasher. You can do it all through software. So that's really cool. And I think one of the things you can do with that is core boot. So I'd love to make a video about that. You have any games that you can recommend to people who use ThinkPads? Just anything that isn't very demanding. Just anything with very low system requirements will work wonderfully. Just got a new old stock T480. Love it. Cool vids. Thank you. Heart for the trains. Thank you. I have power outages. That's why I want something that can last more than a day of constant use. Yeah, like I said, stick to those lower power Ultrabook ThinkPads. You do sacrifice some performance and upgradability, but they do get very good battery life. Hashtag Team Public Transport. I love that. Ever thought of rebuilding a dead battery? I tried that once, nearly blew up the battery, never again. But this was also about 7 or 8 years ago before I really knew all that much about electronics. I basically saw the 8-Bit Guy's video where he rebuilt an iBook battery and thought, I can do that. No, I can't. Or at least I couldn't. And frankly, batteries are something I really don't like to mess with. I just replace the battery when it dies. I don't really like to get into rebuilding. If I were to get a battery rebuilt, I'd have a professional do it, because that is something that you really don't want to mess with if something goes wrong. Because it's very, very easy for those lithium-ion cells to go on thermal runaway, and then you have a problem. Ivy Rain work on the X220 as well. I don't know about the X220, but it does work on the X230. I think. Yeah, because Ivy Rain is for all the Ivy Bridge ThinkPads. I wish Lenovo would make laptops with Ryzen combined with ECC RAM. They might in the future. I mean, it seems like with every generation, there's more and more ThinkPads that have an AMD option. I imagine it's possible within a few years we'll start seeing P-series ThinkPads with AMD. That'd be awesome. How good is the public transportation in your city? Mine is horrible. Public transportation in my city is actually, for a city the size of Pittsburgh, our public transportation is very good. There's light rail serving the South Hills neighborhoods. There's bus rapid transit going out to the eastern and western suburbs. And then if you're in the city or the inner ring suburbs, there's very good bus coverage. But once you get out of the inner ring suburbs and you start getting into the outer suburbs and the exurbs, it falls apart very quickly. Where I live, or where I go to school, is like just out of the urban Pittsburgh area. It's out in the more rural areas, and there is almost no access to public transportation. There is a singular bus that comes through like 2 or 3 times a day, weekdays only, and that's it. And it doesn't even go to Pittsburgh, so you have to take it to somewhere else and then transfer to Pittsburgh. So it depends on where you are in the city. But we do take card payments. We have like a reusable, refillable card that you can get, kind of like Easy Pass, except for public transit. And they are starting to test out mobile phone payments, which is really, really cool. And I haven't gotten to try it yet, but they have a couple of people that are trying it out, and it's really cool. Any thoughts on Fry's big closure? Do they even have them where you're at? No, there aren't any Fry's near me. The nearest store like that is, shoot, what's it called? It's like a computer parts store. I forget what it's called. I forget. Micro Center. Yes, Micro Center. The nearest Micro Center to me is in Cleveland, and that's like a 3-hour drive from where I live. So that's really the only thing close to me. There aren't any Fry's near me. Came for the ThinkPads. I appreciate you and your passion for both trains and music. Thank you. I appreciate that. I've done Ivy Rain and X230 and it works. Are you going to switch to the X1 Nano? I already answered that. Basically, we'll see. T440S, something, something, something. More processing power by undervolting. Yeah, I've not tried that, so I can't really give you a good answer about that. Do you think we'll ever see X-Series AMD laptops? Well, the X13, I think, has an AMD equivalent, I think. But if you're talking about the X1, I don't know. You ever have a terribly worn-out 3-button touchpad that you replaced like 6 months ago? I hate plastic trackpads. I don't know how to answer that. Sorry. Don't know how to answer that because, well, I use the track point. But I think that's it. I think we're going to call it a night because if I keep stalling this out, then we're going to be here forever. But I appreciate you all watching. I apologize for the slightly defocused camera, but I do hope the audio was a lot better since I'm using this external microphone. A lot of people did say it sounded better, so I'm happy to hear that. It's definitely better than the internal mic on my camera/phone. So thank you all for watching. Thanks for tuning in. And stay tuned for more videos. I will be, at some point, doing a more in-depth video about this once I've gotten to use it for a couple of weeks. And then, basically, almost everything in this stack I've wanted to make a video about. Like, I have the first generation X1 Carbon from 2012. I've got the A275 here, which is interesting just because it was like one of the first AMD ThinkPads. X300, you know I'm going to make a video about this. T470S is not really that important. And then T430, I am at some point eventually going to do the full HD display upgrade for this thing. Or the video about it. I've already done the upgrade itself, just need to make the video. We'll see. I mean, school's my #1 priority, of course. So if that gets too busy, then that takes precedence over videos. And of course, it depends on what else is going on in my life and what else is going on relating to ThinkPads. But look for a video about the X300 soon, and then I'll see where I can go from there. I might try to do the full HD video. I might hold that off until later. And then eventually I will do a more in-depth, properly produced video about the X1 Nano, because I am very excited about this, and the whole reason I got it was for the display and to make a video about. So I'm really happy about that. So far, I'm pretty impressed. There's things I like, there's things I don't like, but overall, I'm pretty impressed so far. And I'm interested to see how this holds up after I've used it for a while. So, thank you for tuning in, as always. Hope you guys enjoyed this little live stream here, this little unboxing video. And thank you for watching.